is Václav Šamša. I'm from company TDP, and we do two projects, KeyShield SSO and Secure Winbox. And our presentation, our session today is about KeyShield SSO, which is SSO solution integrated with many systems. Let me try to switch to no. Oops. Okay. So we do a lot of things with Novell, but also with Microsoft and other providers. And whatever I show you today is available for both platforms. So what we can do with Novell, we can do with Microsoft environment as well. Let me start with a short introduction, because when you hear SSO, there are so many products available on the market. And if you search for SSO using the Google, for example, you find many solutions. But those solutions, even they use same VR single sign-on, those solutions are really different. So we see three groups, three kinds of SSO solutions available on the market, and let me show you in short what is the difference. One example is secure login. It's yes.
Sorry to interrupt
Amy?
you. We don't see your screen anymore, so you may have to re-share that.
Okay, so let's. Is this okay for you?
No, I'm not seeing your screen. You may want to go back to the WebEx and just try sharing again.
I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry. I tried to switch it full screen. I believe this would be okay. So yeah, about SSO. A very nice example of first kind of SSO solution is a password cache. In fact, every browser today is working like this. I just use Secure Login, which is a product from Novell today, and it uses secret store. So user first has to authenticate to a secret store. So there is some username and password. It's encrypted. So you open the secret store like you open password cache with your browser, and then if the user is trying to authenticate to any system, so in this case it's about Windows, so there is an authentication dialog on the screen. Client of Secure Login recognize the authentication dialog, and it search for previously stored username and password. It automatically fills in the username and password, and in many cases also press and enter. So it's working exactly like a password cache, and it's sent to the system, or of course it can also work locally and the user is logged in. From the user point of view, there was only an authentication to the secret store, but if we think in terms of the whole environment, whole system, of course this application doesn't know about SSO. There is nothing. It uses username and password, and you must manage usernames and passwords for all users. This is just a password cache. Another issue with this is that this is possible with Windows, but today we have many Android devices, iOS devices, Linux, Macintosh, etc., and it's not allowed. So this is typical that one process, which is the client, can visit a window of another owned by another process and fill in something. It's from a specific point of view is a security risk. So that's a kind of SSO solutions password cache. Another example is a proxy. I use again Novell product. Of course, there are many others of this. Today it's Esd Api, sorry. And the difference is that there is no client locally. The user has to authenticate the proxy server. In this case, it's a portal. Another example is, for example, IBM Tivoli. It works in a very similar manner. So again, the user has to authenticate to the server, and then user is accessing applications, systems through the proxy. NetIQ Access Manager, to be honest, also supports SAML security assertion markup language version 2. In this case, we go through the proxy. So if the user is trying to work with an application, then the proxy server is sending again the username and password to the application, and if this is correct, the user is authenticated to the application. What is similar to the previous example, the application is not typically integrated with anything. It just receives a username and password, and if it's correct, the user is authenticated to the apps. The advantage is that on this, on the user side, there can be anything. If it's typically for a browser environment, so the user can use mobile device, the user can use Macintosh, whatever, and work with this solution. The disadvantage is that the power you need for the proxy server is, is visible. I saw an installation with 6 huge servers working as a proxy server for quite a big customer. So it's another kind of SSO solution. And then we have third group, and the KeyShield SSO, our solution, is a member of this group, and that's an IDP group. So in this case, I usually say this is a real SSO. The application must be integrated with the IDP provider. There are solutions like Shibboleth or CAS. Those are typical examples of IDP kind SSO solution. Then the application user is connecting to the application, and the application must be able to ask the identity provider who is the user. There are different mechanisms. I will talk about this later today, how it works. But basically, the IDP provider replies with a user ID, so there is no username, no password. The application must be able to work with a user ID, and if it's a known user and this user is allowed to work with the application, the user is successfully logged in. So there can be no authentication mechanism. It just receives the information who is the user, and that's it. This is really fast, really clear, really easy to administer on the side of the application. But what can be considered as a disadvantage is that the application must be able to work with an IDP. Today, there are lot of systems, many systems are already supporting this, at least in that way that there is a standard API or a standard way how to add a plugin which is working with the specific IDP. For example, we did Drupal, Joomla, Moodle, those systems. They are prepared for an IDP concept, so it was easy to integrate them, and they are now working with SSO solution. Let me switch for a while to my demo here. I have a few servers running on my notebook. As an environment, I have an OES server, which is like Linux with a Novell Open Enterprise server. Again, same we do with Microsoft, just needs less memory, so I use OES. I have the KeyShield server, and as examples, I have here Vibe and Fire server from Novell. We support many others. It's available on the website. The list is available on the website. For example, we of course support everything help desk from GroupLink. That's one of our first integrations. So let me authenticate here to the eDirectory environment. So I'm in, I'm authenticated, and you see I did nothing. And here is an icon which represents our client, and it's green. Green means everything is okay, you are authenticated. By the way, this is a very nice feature. It's just a bonus feature, but it works nice because we use 3 different colors. So if I just click here, change the color to yellow, which means disconnect. We use 3 colors. Red, I don't see the server. Yellow, I see the server, but I'm not authenticated. And green, I'm authenticated, everything is okay. So if the user is doing a call to the help desk, say, I can't work, and they can ask just, what is your color? And if the user replies, I'm red, the color of the icon is red, say, okay, please check your cable files, check your Wi-Fi or whatever, because you are not connected to the network. And if the color is yellow, then something is wrong with the authentication, but the network is working fine. That's just a bonus feature from us. So if I click again, I get authenticated. I don't need to enter anything because we are working together with a novel client. In the Microsoft Active Directory environment, we use fast method based on just check who is the user, or a little bit slower method. We support NDLM version 2. In this case, we are working with a novel client, and we check the identity of the user through eDirectory and generate a token, and that's the way how we prove the identity of the user. So now we know who is the user, and we can work. And we provide clients for all major platforms. So we have clients for Windows, from Windows XP and above, including Windows 8, of course, Macintosh, Linux, 12 different distributions supported, Android, BlackBerry, and iOS. So it doesn't matter if you work from your iPad, iPhone, Android tablet, BlackBerry tablet, everything is working, always work with the client, and the client always, excuse me, always support this functionality, so it can connect, disconnect, it shows scores, and there is even an infrastructure of messaging infrastructure. So what I can do, let me open the console of the system. So I'm now connected to the KeyShield SSO server console. I don't need to authenticate again because, of course, this is integrated with my authentication to the server as well. So I don't need to authenticate. If I close this, I click here just because I don't want to work as a Joe Doe. I can do it again, and now I have to authenticate. You see, it's pretty easy because now I'm not known to the system. If I click here again, I get green again. I click here again. It's just a link, and I'm in. So I was talking about the messaging infrastructure. It's another nice feature because sometimes you need to deliver a quick message. You know, here is a list of users. This can be filtered by many ways. There is always online help, and this works with directory groups, directory names, but also with networks. Because, for example, with a bigger institutions or companies with subsidiaries, you can filter by an IP network, because you know that there's a specific IP network is assigned to your New York office, and then you can see who is authenticated in New York office, regardless the position of the user object in the directory. So somebody who is from Atlanta can be for 2 days in New York, and you will see him here because of a filtration by a network. So here is the messaging. Of course, integrated applications can use it as well, but it's available here at the console. So this is the name, full distinguished name of the user. So just hi there, and I can limit the validity of the message. So if Joe Doe will be on vacation, and he return next week, he will not get the message. Okay, it's sent, and I got a message. See, it's yellow. We call it yellow message. there is nice story behind, because one of our first customers is a nuclear research institute. It's a very serious business. They are running 2 real reactors, and they were looking for a quick messaging solution, because it's, as I mentioned, it's serious. Nuclear, they are very often testing alarms and whatever. So when they did alarm, they need to, when they do alarm, they need to let every employees know that it's just a test. So they need to say, hey, this is just a test. Stay at your desk, continue working, don't run out, etc. So it's why it's called yellow, because they did ask us for this, and we found this as a very nice feature, and we are able to deliver this to any device. So if you are on iPhone and some meeting, not a problem, you've got the message on your iPhone. So okay, because we are working with a client, we authenticate everything which comes from that device. So now everything what I do from this desktop is authenticated, and I'm green, it's authenticated. So if I go and work with Vibe, for example, it's based on coupling. You maybe know this portal solutions, document management system included. So I get in, I'm Joe Doe. You see, it's pretty fast. Even I'm on a poor laptop, and I have 4 servers running and desktop, virtualized desktop running. It's still pretty fast. By the way, this is very important, because our system is so optimized that we are able to process up to 10,000 requests per second. I'm not kidding, 10,000 requests per second. So the typical response time of our server, when SSO request is a request from the integrated application to the IDP to our server, who is the user, and the typical response time is below a millisecond, less than 1 millisecond. So okay, this is easy. You can say, okay, it's browser, just a demo browser, and everybody can do browser. Let me show you something different, because if you need to work with a file, then you can't use the browser connection, but WebDAV is used. It's a different protocol. There is a web client built in Windows, and that web client is used for operations with this file. So let me click here, edit this file, and I'm in. I did nothing, I'm in. Yeah. Again, it's pretty fast. It connects my authentication to KeyShield SSO. It connects it from the browser to Vibe, and also through WebDAV to Vibe. I can change here something. No, everything help desk is a nice solution. And save, yes, okay, the problem is done. If I return back, let me open the files for which again you see the blue point tells me it's changed, and if I try to open this file again, it will be changed. So it's working really nice, really easy, and it's perfect for clients, because if there is a SSO solution which is working with browser, okay, that's nice. But sometimes you have few systems, and one system is optimized for Internet Explorer, and another one is working better with Firefox, and a third one is working better with Chrome. That's crazy. That's painful, because then you need to authenticate from each browser separately. There is nothing. It's, of course, it's a security measure, but there is nothing in between those browsers, and also in between browser and the web client. So we connected everything together, and it makes it pretty easy for users. They can just get a permanent link to the file, and they can send a permanent link. You see here, I click, and here I have a permanent link, and if I get this and I send it somebody via email, he or she just click the link and open the file. They don't need to authenticate because they are already authenticated to KeyShield. Same is with FileR. Why I have a FileR here? Because Vibe is quite easier. It's just a standard system, but with FileR is connecting remotely to servers. So FileR is a solution which is able to work with your Windows servers and OES servers, and users can work with their files stored on those servers. So this is perfect. They can work with their files, with their data, using standard client, Microsoft or Novell client, and they can also work with the data using FileR. And here we have net folders, and this is a volume which is on my OES server. Again, it's same with Windows, and I can open here something and details is a preview, edit this file, and it works same. And that's what not easy, but our integration is approved by Novell, and it's working fine with FileR and remote servers as well. And we are able to work in that way that if I check users authenticated to OES server, I'll see myself. I don't see any proxy user from FileR. I see Joe Doe. So okay, that's how it's working. Let me return back for a while to my presentation here, and I tell you again in a very short way what is inside, how the system is designed. So first, it's developed in Java. It's enterprise Java. We support, with Java, it can virtually run on any platform, but we directly support Windows and Linux. And we also provide appliance, so you can use a software appliance, or you can install this system to existing Windows or Linux servers with very nice and convenient installation. Excuse me. We have an admin console. We already tried it. Now we have an LDAP viewer, which is very nice too. By the way, if I return back here, I can show you that we are able to work with more than one user sources at a time. Here I'm working with eDirectory, which is on a OES server, and my directory is a built-in Apache DS, which comes together with KeyShield. So if you need a small or even bigger directory, you just can click here, and say yes, enabled, and then it's automatically created, and it works very nice. It's easy, I can manage users, manage groups, and the LDAP viewer allows me to check, for example, what I see here in the user source. We have many customers with more than one user source. The crazy one has 7. They have everything, but the typical is that they have, I don't know, 1 eDirectory, 2 Active Directory. That's what we can work with very easy. Then we have logs. It's easy. Yellow message. I showed you what is yellow message. Embedded DS. Yes, it comes with Apache DS. That's it's licensed, or there is the open license, so you can use it. Security. That's important because what we do, we are working with API keys, so that's a protective measure, because without that, an IDP provider will tell who you are to anybody. That's a security risk. Not very important, not very big one, but that's a security risk. So you can work with application keys. So then you say just I need a new application key, and then the integration piece of code, which is running on on the integrated application side has to provide also an application key. Otherwise, the response is none. It's failing. It doesn't provide this information. So you can define, as I show you, as many connectors as you need. You can work with as many novel eDirectory, Microsoft Active Directory, and LDAPs. We have Open LDAP, we have Sun1. We were even working with Zimbra LDAP, and that's working very, very nice. On the client side, we have two kinds of. We have a client for Windows, which is able to work with Active Directory and novel eDirectory. So if the user is working with a workstation which is registered in domain in Active Directory, or the workstation has a novel client installed, it's working against eDirectory, then the user doesn't need to authenticate to our system. Yeah, just authenticate to directory, and that's it. We can work with all clients. We have listed all clients here. Also support manual authentication. In that case, for example, if you have a standalone Windows computer, you can switch the client to manual mode, and then the user has to type in a username and password. We also support two-factor authentication, so you can put the card into the reader and type just a password, or we support UID authentication. In that case, there is only one identifier. That's not really secure, but it's perfect for, let's say, proxy access. It was designed for police because they were looking for a solution which will record what policemen are, what they are doing on the internet, so they can just say, oh, this is my workforce ID, my policeman ID, and that's enough to authenticate the proxy server. Of course, it's not enough to authenticate some really sensitive system. Now we have 4 different APIs. What I showed you already, it's about REST API. It's easy API, it's well described. REST today is the best way how to do it. It's pretty fast. That's the API which is able to respond in less than a millisecond, and we support many solutions. We also support those competitors, in fact, and with us, if you have already a Shibboleth or CAS or NAM, that's easy, because with us you don't need to authenticate to them. So you just click and you are in Shibboleth, and that's it. So we have customers like universities. They use Shibboleth to work with EDU gain, and they use this to avoid any manual authentication. Here is an example how it can work with the REST API. It's an integration for Squid. We don't have only Squid, we also have a WebTitan, which is Squid-based solution. And there is an integration piece of code which is asking who is the user, and then it works like Squid is working with SSO solution. Why it's important? Why I have Squid here? Because there, in case of Squid, very fast, very quick response is requested. If the SSO solution is slow, then it even can cause a fail of Squid, because if you have a fast connection to the internet, and I'm sure you have, and many users, then Squid needs really quick response from the SSO. Then we have SAML. So if you run KeyShield SSO, you don't need to work only with REST API. There is SAML. So if you want to work with Google Maps, with Office 365, Salesforce, whatever, it's perfect for systems which are outside the perimeter, outside your environment, and it's perfect. Of course, it's slower. It supports only browsers, but that's a standard today, so we support it. And what is interesting for eDirectory customers, there is a technique which is used which is called network address attribute. That attribute was not designed for authentication, but it's used by some providers like Sophos, Cisco, McAfee. But there are some issues because this is not designed really for authentication. Here is a drawing which shows how it works. It's how it's working without KeyShield. So the value into the attribute is stored by Windows client itself. Yeah. So in fact, it's the user who is storing the value, and then NCP server has to delete the value. But NCP server is not sometimes able to see that the connection is out. Of course, there are some timeouts. So first attempt comes after 5 minutes. So that's not really reliable for authentication. That's was designed for different purposes. But with us, with KeyShield SSO, we manage this address attribute, by the server. It's happening within tens of seconds or seconds, within seconds, and that's really reliable. So then we are able to provide correct values for already mentioned providers. And another API is radius accounting. It's supported by FortiGate, SonicWall, Lightspeed. It's a very nice web content manager, Lightspeed. They are able to work with radius accounting packets. So it works in that way that our server is sending information to the clients, to device about users and their IP addresses. So when the user is trying then to go to the internet, for example, Lightspeed knows who is the user, and there is no further authentication required for this. So now just a short example how it works with an IDP concept. We support all directories, and any system can be integrated with this SSO. It's really easy. We just have to choose what is the unique identifier of the user, and that same identifier has to be used within the system. We have customers, for example, in Germany, they integrated a very, very old cafeteria information system with SSO. In fact, it's really funny because everybody is thinking about huge systems. Hey, how can I integrate my SAP? Okay, SAP is important, but just part of the company, not all users, just a group of users is working with SAP, and yeah, maybe not so often in some cases, but with a cafeteria information system, where users are ordering their meals, everybody is working with at least once a day. So when they start with I don't know, this company, I'm an example, they start with Sugar CRM, I think, and then they came and say, hey, we have cafeteria and everybody is working with, can we integrate it? And that's pretty old system, but with an IDP concept, it was easy. This is very short piece of code asking our REST API, who is the user. They go through the table, and there's the user, and that's working. So you see how it works. It just asks who is the user. It gets back is in this case Peter Smith, and that's it. Of course, on the other side can be also another directory system. So it doesn't matter if the information system is working with the same directory or another directory. If we can find a unique identifier which is identifying those objects, in this case in a directory SCN, in an active directory, in this example, some account name. If it's same, it's working again same way like it was working with an SQL example or DBF example or whatever. I have some slides with technical explanation how it's working in between the client and the server, but we are running a little bit out of the time, and that's not really important for a concept introduction. So Amy, if there are some questions or comments, can we pass? Can we answer them?
Yes, and again, if anyone does have any questions, you can put those through on either the chat or the Q&A, although I haven't seen any come through yet.
Okay, perfect. Let me show you for a while. We have a product, a technology website, which is www.KeyShieldSSO.com, and here you can find many information, also some testimonials and success stories, and here is a list of integrations. Of course, these integrations are developed by us or by our partners. So there are other integrations which are not listed here. For example, new integration is Oracle UCM. We already support wide everything help desk, as I mentioned. So if you have any system, just contact GroupLink, or you can contact us directly through the form on the website, and we can inform you if the system is integrated or not. Here we have downloads. So as I mentioned, there is also always a package which contains a standard installations and appliance. Here we have VMware appliance and Xen appliance. Hyper-V appliance is available upon request. Clients, of course, and again integrations in this place available for download. Developers Corner, that I would like to mention because, you know, yes, there are always some standard systems everybody is using. I don't know, Drupal, for example, or many customers are using excuse me, Drupal or Squid. That's easy, but in almost every company you can find in-house developed systems, customized systems, as I mentioned, the cafeteria information system. And there is a question how difficult it is to connect such system with an SSO environment, because those proprietary systems are very often used, sometimes used by all users, so it's important. And that's very nice on KeyShield SSO, because it's very, very easy to integrate with the REST API. It's just an HTTP request or HTTPS request. You send the request and you get back a document which contains the identity of the user. If you run multi-level system, so you need to pass the information about the user to the background where the authentication is done. And very nice example we have here is GroupLink. Everything help desk is working, is integrated with GroupWise, and GroupWise is a system where you type in your username and password into the client, but the client sends it to the server, to post office, and post office does the authentication. And for this case, we are able to work with certificates, ID certificates. So you can ask not only just the information about the identity, but you can ask the certificate, and you can pass certificate to the next level or next, yeah, like in case in GroupWise it's a post office, and post office is able to process, to check the validity of the certificate and accept the certificate. So it's not only about the information, it's also about the certificate, which can be valid for just 30 seconds, for example, and then it's perfect way how to authenticate. In fact, it's even more secure and easier than to work with usernames and passwords. Here's also a documentation and some utilities. For example, this utility can switch the mode of the KeyShield client, as I mentioned, that there are modes, integration with AD integration with indirect integration, or the manual way of authentication. So, okay, that's it. If there are still no questions, I thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to be here today with you. And, you know, if you want to need more, please contact GroupLink or contact us through this form, and we will reply in a very short time to your request, and we